Hello, hello. I'm hopping on a couple of minutes early here just to make sure everything is working. Hopefully you can see me. There's probably not anybody here just yet because I'm a couple minutes early, but as soon as somebody hops on, if you could just let me know you're here. Oh, I see. Yay, Donna's there. Thank you, Donna. So glad to have you here. I'm glad you got my back, girl. Good. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. All right, well, we've got some eyes on here. I see Anne. Hi, Anne. Thanks for watching. Donna's here, and Guylaine. Hello, Guylaine. So nice that you're here. I'm just going to give people a few more minutes. I see Irene. Let me see who else have we got here. Renee. Just looking at my iPad to see if I can see the comments. Okay, so we've got a few people coming in. I am a little bit early here, so I'm just gonna give people a few more seconds to pop on. Happy Tuesday night, everybody. Glad that you're here. And oh, thanks, Guylaine. I got a new do. I think they chopped about 4 inches off my hair, and it was well overdue. So thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so I maybe will get started. Thanks, Donna. I appreciate it. Yeah, so tonight, guys, what I have in store for you tonight is all about ink. And I have a few techniques to show you, but the focus is going to be on the new Pink Fresh inks. And then I have a few sort of ink blending techniques, and also I want to talk pouncers, because I do have the pouncers and I'm loving these things and I have a couple of fun ways to use them. So I thought I would share that with you. Okay, so Donna is going to add product links as we go along, and Isabel will be translating for me. I apologize that I can't do this live in both official languages, but that is, it's beyond me. So, okay, so I think we're going to get started. I think, we're just a few minutes, and I have a few minutes after 7, and I have a lot of things to show you. So I'm going to see if I can adjust my camera now without losing everybody. So bear with me. Get a shot at my window here for a second. My tape roll. Okay. Down we go. And, all right. My very dirty stenciling mat. Okay. I think I've got that cinched up. All right. So hopefully everybody can see that okay. Okay, good. Thanks, Donna. Hi, Mari. I'm glad you're here. Thanks, Isabel. I appreciate it. Okay, so let's get rolling here. As I said, I have a bunch of things to show you. I want to start by showing you this little treasure because it's pretty awesome. I'm going to turn it around here. This is the Pink Fresh ink case that they came out with this year, and it is gorgeous. And I'm just going to open it up. This is the 72 ink cube case, and this is one side of it, which I have filled with all of the new colors, which I love. And then the other side, which I have not filled yet, but I'm working on it, is I have the neutrals on this side. And so eventually I will have the other colors in there as well. But these are the inks that I'm going to be working with primarily tonight. This case is unfortunately sold out, but Scrap Masse does have the 48 cube case, which, you know, depending on how many ink cubes you have, might just do the job. But it really is beautiful, and it's very well made. Like the zipper works really well and stuff. So these are the inks that I'm going to use tonight. So I'm going to get that set up here. And so yeah, we're going to talk about ink blending and pouncing, and talk a little bit about you know, one and the other, whether one is better than the other. My view is that they each have their own place. So we'll talk about that as we go along. I'm going to start with this fun stamp set. And this is a stamp set that you saw Fred use last Thursday. And he did something really cool where he made a really fun background and then stamped this on his background. And I absolutely loved what he did. Tonight, I'm going to use it a little bit differently. So if you have this set, hopefully it gives you some ideas about, you know, another way to use it. So I'm just going to grab my supplies here. So we're going to do a couple of things with this. So we're going to start with ink blending, and then we are going to talk about pouncing, and then you can decide whether one appeals to you more than the other. So to begin with, this is the sample that I made. And what I love about this for this set is that, I'm just going to look at the comments here. What I love about this set for this technique is that it gives you all of these silhouette elements. And so I really think it's such a cute and whimsical set. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to start with some ink blending. Now, what I'm using some Pink Fresh. These are part of the original collection. So these aren't the new colors. So I'm working with Sky Blue, Slumber, and Storm. And then I'm adding in a couple of other colors that aren't from the Pink Fresh family, but just to allow me to add some deeper colors in. So I'm going to start, and I'm using the Tailored Expression blending brushes for this, which I really like. I have a whole bunch of blending brushes. I have the Tailored Expressions. I have the Picket Fence Studio, or Picket Fence. And then recently I bought these Prism Studio blending brushes, and I really enjoy these two. I would say that these are about the same quality as the Tailored Expression ones. The bristles are nice and dense and super smooth, and so I find that they blend really well. What I love about Prism Studio is that it's a Canadian company, and it's, you know, it's always nice to support a Canadian company, and it's nice because it's you know, the brushes are really nice quality, so that's kind of awesome. Okay, so here we go, guys. So we're gonna start. I'm going dark to light because I want my night sky to be darker at the top. And so for those of you who are not familiar with ink blending, what I like to do is always start off of the panel that I'm blending onto. So I'm going to put this paper underneath, and I'm going to start up here and come onto the paper. And the advantage of doing it that way is that your blotchy part ends up on this paper, because you're always going to have a bit of ink on there. So you want to kind of blot it off a little bit and then move on to your paper. The other thing you want to do is you want to go one direction and then you want to go the other direction, because the bristles are holding that ink, and to release it, the ink from the bristles, you want to work the bristles both ways. Okay, I hope I'm not making you dizzy. So just continuing to work down, and what we're going to do, as I said earlier, is that we're going to go from dark to light. I have a sticky note at the bottom so that eventually my fingers are going to want to get into the ink, as they always do. And hopefully the sticky note's going to help me stay away from that. So again, working both ways. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my colors. I'm going to go to the medium blue, ink that up, and I'm going to come in from the side here so that I'm not working too far up into my first color, although you do want to work back into the earlier color because that helps with your blending. The other thing about ink blending is that it's always a less is more scenario with ink blending, because you want to start light and then add more ink in, because you can't take the ink away. You can only add it. What type of paper are you using, or just regular cardstock? Okay, good question, because that is something that I wanted to talk about, Gillian. So thank you for asking me that. So what I'm using here is, and I really love this, it's a Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth cardstock. I think that's, let me just check that name. I think that's right. I did write it down. Yeah, I think it's, Donna will put it in, Donna has a link for the Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth. So it is a beautiful cardstock, and it really, the ink really blends onto it beautifully. The other cardstock that's really nice is the Nina Solar White, also beautiful. The Nina Solar White 110 weight, I find is especially nice if you're doing, if you want to do like a 1-layer card, because it's you know, the 110 weight is nice for a base weight. The Spectrum Noir is not quite as heavy, so it's nice for a layering weight. Hammermill is also really nice. I have used that as well, and I use it to make my samples a lot, because it's a little bit cheaper than the other. But the Spectrum Noir cardstock is beautiful. So now I'm just going down, I'm flipping this around so I can keep my hands out of the ink as much as possible. And I'm starting at the bottom to work in my lighter color. Working up into my darker colors. Okay, how are we doing there? Questions. Okay. There was something else I thought of, and now it's escaped me, but it'll come back. It's hard to craft. Crafting live is hard. Okay. So now what I said was start off the paper and move up. And then I just broke my own rule and brought my brush down as I was chatting. So try not to do that, because it's good that I did it though, because you can see what happens. So you end up with this little bit of a spot there, but I think I can blend it out. Okay, so we're almost there. The other thing I'll mention is that you'll see that I'm using a card panel with a stitched edge. And normally what I would do is I would start with a plain card panel, and I would do my ink blending, and then I would cut my card panel down after I'm all done with my ink blending. And the reason for that is, and I'll show you on the sample, if you look at this sample, you'll see the edges look very even, and the stitching, the ink is in the stitching. And that's because the panel has been inked first and then cut. So then it's cut, the stitching is pressed into the inked area. So it all looks very smooth. Whereas if you're inking into the die cut, it doesn't give you quite as nice a look. Okay. All right. So this is not perfect, but we're going to leave it there because you get the idea, and you can see on the sample what the effect that we're going for. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab out some of my elements here. I'm going to take this guy. I love this tall little, and this I think is my favorite thing in the whole set. It's like the little smoke coming out of the chimney of the house. I love that attention to detail. Okay, now I'm going to grab my stamping block, and I'm grabbing some VersaFine Clair ink. And this is an ink that I love for stamping, especially if I'm doing like silhouette stamping. It is a pigment ink. And what you have to keep in mind is that because it's a pigment ink versus a dye ink, it has a longer open time. So it doesn't dry quite as fast. So you just have to be careful not to smudge it. And you can heat set it once you've stamped with it, just to be sure that it's set and isn't going to move. But it's a beautiful ink, and you'll see how gorgeous it stamps. Okay, so I'm going to start with this guy here. And I'm not going for perfection tonight, guys. I'm just want to give you the sense of this. I'm going to clean my stamps as I go. So I'm going to add in, I think, this little tree here. Get that one down. There we go. And now we'll add a little house to the mix. I don't know about you, but I'm in overdrive mode here for making Christmas cards these days. So that's why all of my makes tonight are going to be Christmas related. Okay, so here goes the other little house. How cute is that? I love this stamp set. It's just so adorable. And then this little smoke thing. I always have to make sure I'm getting it in the right direction here. Okay. Okay, wait for it. You ready? What? I swear. I guess it doesn't take much to amuse me, but I love that. I love that they thought about that detail. Okay, and then we're going to add one more little tree to this. There you go. And as I was saying before, if you start with your panel and you ink it, and then you can do all your stamping, and then the other thing, the other advantage to that is that if there's something that you don't quite like about, you know, one end or the other, you can always, you know, cut your panel down so that you can cut off the piece that, you know, doesn't appeal to you or whatever. I'm just going to stick my stamps quickly back in so I don't lose anything, especially some of these little pieces are kind of hard to keep track of. Okay. So that's our little scene, and then I'm just going to add the moon. Pop our little moon in there. Okay. And with the stars, what I did, so they give you this little cluster of stars, which is really fun. So what I did was I stamped the cluster all at once, like so. And then what I did was I just stamped parts of it. And like I kind of ink up my stamp and then, whoops, and then wipe off the part that I don't want, and then just add my stamps down sort of randomly. So we kind of scatter the stars around the sky, and you can do, you know, to your liking, however many stars that you want to add into your little skyline. So just clean that up. And then to complete this, what I did was, let's put this stamp back. What I did to complete it was I took a little snow stencil, just had little dots, and I took the Tim Holtz, oh no, where did I put it? Let me just grab it here. Here it is. I used the Snowfall Grit Paste, and I ran it through I just took a spatula, put it through my stencil, and I just put it over the whole thing. I just ran it over the whole thing. And you can even see that I put it down here. And then it just gives you this soft little sparkle for your night sky. And then I finished it off with this sentiment, which is from the Ideology stickers. I think this might be out of stock right now because I think I got it last year. But I mean, really, it's any sentiment that that you like to just add to the top of it, and you have your little scene. So that is one way of using ink blending to create what I think is a pretty simple card, but it gives you a really appealing, I think, Christmas card that doesn't take you tons and tons of time to do and gives you a nice result. The second card that I want to show you, now this is where we move into the pouncing. And so for this one, we're going to use the little snow globe stamp from this set. And I'm just going to grab my stamping platform. Now, I happen to have a Misty. Any stamping platform will do the job here. You just need something where you can stamp and restamp your card panel, because we're going to kind of do this as a sort of almost like a layering kind of technique. I'll put this at the top, which hopefully will make it easier for you to be able to see what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do, what is the Snowfall stencil? Oh, Snowfall stencil. You know, I don't even know what it was. I think it actually was a, I'm just looking to see if I can put my hands on it. It was, the one that I used was a little addition to a stamp timber stamp, I think. But I mean, there are so many Snowfall stencils out there. Any stencil that gives you the little dots or, you know, snowflakes will work for this. But this is the one. I don't even have a name on it. It was just stuck in my my stencil bin. It had little holes, so I grabbed it. But anything like that would work just fine. Okay, so I'm going to, as best as I can, try to get this centered. It's hard to do when I'm not standing right over it. Okay, so I'm going to pick that up. Now, okay, so this is where the pouncers come in, and I'm interested to see what you think of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start again with similar colors. I'm going to leave my light to the bottom, and I'm going to start with the darker at the top. And I'm going to take my pouncer. And what's fun about these is that you can set your pouncer in your lid in between the inking. Okay, so tap, tap, tap. And I'm going to take a piece of scrap paper and just sort of tap off a little bit there. And I'm going to go in and tap the top part of my stamp like so. And then I'm going to stamp it. Where's my little, here it is. My Make It by Maker Forte stamp smoosher. Okay, so now you can see the beginning. So now I'm going to, switch over to my medium color blue. I'm going to stamp off a bit of the darker blue first, off to the side. And then I'm going to go back in. Oops. Hopefully you can see that. Go back in. Now more to the center. And stamp it down. So now you can see our sky is starting to shape up. Then I'm going to move to the lighter color. And once again, just grab my scrap paper and stamp off the dark ink. Now, just one thing before I do that. I'm going to grab a bit of Gina K Masking Magic, and I'm just going to put that across the bottom of my snow globe because I don't want the base to be inked up. And then I'm going to go in with my lighter color, like so. And then, this is important, you have to take that tape off before you stamp it down. And it's coming along. I'm going to stamp it one more time with my blue. I want a little bit more along here. Okay. Take off the tape. Okay. And voila. How cute is that little soft night sky? So now what we're going to do is I'm going to switch to my brown pouncer. And I'm going to grab my brown ink. Just bear with me. I'm going to go with a kind of a dark brown ink for this. This one is it's one of the new colors. It's the Gathered Twigs, and it's really a pretty color. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my Masking Magic to the above and fight with my ink to get it open. Grab my pouncer, pounce, pounce, pounce. Now, you might wonder, couldn't I just do this with my ink cube? And the answer is yes, you could 100% do this with your ink cube. What I have found sometimes with the ink cubes is that they will leave a mark. So, you know, the edge of the cube will kind of leave a mark. So it's not absolutely smooth. And with the pouncer, you can get the smooth inking across the whole thing, which I kind of think is kind of cool. So that's why I like them for this. Okay, take my tape off, and down we go. I can't believe how fast the time goes. All right, and there it is. How adorable is that? So now, before I take this off, actually, I'm going to show you one other thing before I get to the sentiment. So when I made my sample, what I did was, when I got to this point, I then pulled out my Versamark ink, and I'm going to grab this one more time. Actually, it doesn't even matter because I think I'm going to do the whole thing. So you can, I have done it both ways. I've just inked up the globe, and then I've also inked up the base of it, and it's really a question of preference. So the Versamark ink, the embossing ink, is a glycerin ink, and so it's sticky and it stays wet. It has a longer open time. So that gives you a chance to do your inking and then get your embossing powder on there. So I usually like to do it a couple of times. So I'm just going to give it one more inking. I keep my embossing ink pad pretty juicy, so it should be good, but I'm going to give it a second pass. And then I'm going to grab, and you could do this, you could do it with clear embossing powder if you wanted, but I'm going to do it with the Tim Holtz Frosted Crystal. And what I love about the Frosted Crystal, if I can put my hands on it, here it is that it gives you a it gives you like a vintagey kind of frosty sort of look, but it's matte, so it's really it's really fun. It's a fun effect. It's not super in your face. It's quite subtle. Now I'm just going to leave that there while I pick this up. And if you haven't worked with it, what I would say is that, and you know, Tim, I think, has explained this on his videos too, but the trick with the Frosted Crystal for the basic use of it, because I know that Fred showed another technique with it, but for just the basic use of it, is to not overheat it, and that's what gives you the matte finish. So I'm just going to heat up my, oops, I just dropped my ink. I'm going to heat up my heat tool. Give me a second. Sorry for the noise. So what you'll notice is that the color will change, but not dramatically. Okay. So you'll see that it gets a little bit darker. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. I'm not going to touch it just yet, but I'll let it cool. And then I just want to, you can actually hear the texture. So if I rub my finger, so paper, and then the Frosted Crystal, it's really a cool effect. And it shows up a lot better in person than it does on camera. But so that's how I did my sample. And then what I did was I chose my sentiment. I'm just going to show you my sample here. And I'm going to just quickly show you what I did with the sentiment, because again, I used the pouncers for this, and you totally could just stamp a sentiment. I mean, that would be fantastic, and a great way to finish your card. But just to show you how I did it, so I'll just go with Wonderland. try to get it. My paper got a little bit warped with the heat. Okay. Grab that. And then, so then what I did with this was I took my, again, back to my pouncer. Just going to close up my brown ink here. And I took my light and my dark, and with the light, I just kind of tap, tap, tap on the top part of the sentiment. And then with my darker color, I went along the bottom, because you don't have a lot of, it's an ombre effect, but you don't have a lot of room for your ombre, so it's kind of a narrow transition. So let's stamp that down. And I think what I'm going to do is just add a little bit more of the light. And again, I kind of like the less than perfect sort of look that you get with this. So it's ombre, but it's kind of more ombre in some areas than the other, which I think kind of is part of the whimsy of that whole stamp. So that's that. And so basically I did that, and then I put it on a navy blue card base or matte layer, and then I added it to a white card base. So now you could also add some bling to that if you wanted to sparkle it up a bit, but I think it's also adorable just as a simple, kind of a clean and simple style card. So that's that one. Okay, so moving on, because time is ticking here. It always amazes me how fast the time goes. Okay, so I'm just going to get this out of the way. Give me a second. Clear the decks. My stamps set away here. All right. So this we don't need anymore. So now what we're going to do, how are we doing here? I'm just going to check for questions. Okay, so now we're going to have some more fun. For those people, I don't know if anybody's watching that was in my class or not, but we talked about apertures, and so this next card is all about apertures. And ink blending. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a plain card panel, and what I did was I took a paper punch. This one is 3 inches, and I positioned it on my, I have to pick some ink colors. We need different colors. I'm gonna put the blues away. And I'm gonna grab some colors. Okay, let's see here. What color should we do? How about something in the, maybe a little more red. The other one is a bit more pinkish. Okay, so here we go. So we want to center this as best we can, like so. gonna grab my blending brush here. Oops. Okay. So I'm going to start with, ooh, these are both pretty dark. Okay. Let's go with it and see what we get. All right. So I think I'm a little off center. So what you want to do here is kind of give some thought to your sentiment. Now, these are pretty big ornaments. So my thought on this is that you basically put a sentiment across your ornament. So it can be a little closer to the bottom to allow room for your second ornament. So I'm just going to start there. And then again, I've got a piece of scrap paper. I'm going to tap off because I don't want to go in too heavy duty with this. And because I've cut this out of cardstock, that's going to give me a little protection around the edges. However, if you want a little more security, you can just take a sticky note and put that on the edges just to give you that little extra, like I said, security that you're not going to go over. So here again, what I said before remains true in this case. You want to start gentle because you can't take away ink, but you can add it. So, and what we're looking for here too is we want to keep a bit of a light in the center because you want that feeling of like a highlight. So more definition around the outside of your ornament and a little bit of light in the center of your ornament. Okay. All right. So we're going to leave that like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to lift this off. And what I did was with the same hole punch, so it was a 3-inch punch, I took my Gina K Masking Magic and I cut a circle. And when you're cutting the circles, what I did was I actually applied the Masking Magic to a piece of very light copy paper and then cut that with my hole punch, because I find that if I just try cutting the Masking Magic with the hole punch, sometimes it gets gummed up in my hole punch. So just keep that in mind. So I've masked off that first ornament, and what that's going to do is that's going to put the ornament in the foreground of my image. And then what I want to do is I want to place my other ornament. I want to just kind of move it a bit off to the side. Okay, and then grab some ink and just start working it in. Once again, using your brush going both directions. And red, like red is especially kind of intense, so gotta keep that in mind. Okay, so there you go. Doesn't look like much, right? So now what we're gonna do, before I take that mask off, I am going to take this stencil. Now, again, this happens to be a Hero Art stencil. I actually don't think this is the best stencil for this job, to be honest. And the reason for that is because it has a hole in the center of it. Like, I wish it was just all snowflakes. So if you have a snowflake stencil, or like it doesn't have to be snowflakes, but a kind of an ornate design, I think. Think of Christmas ornaments and the kinds of things that you see on Christmas ornaments. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back there, and I'm going to put this stencil over top. And that way I know that I'm not going to stencil sort of outside of the the lines, if you will. And then I'm going to go back in, and so using the same color, so tone on tone, and again with a light hand. But the impact of the stencil is that it focuses the ink, so you really don't have to press that hard, and you've got a nice bit of ink going through that stencil. And if I just lift it up, you can see the effect of that tone on tone there. So now if I lift this off, and I was trying to make sure I don't have any ink on my hands here. And then I'm just going to take my little picky tool and lift up the masking magic. And keep your masking magic, because the masking magic can be used, I think I mentioned before, like it can be used over and over again. Like I've used mine 4 or 5 times before it's done. So I just keep it on my packaging. So now I'm going to go back to I'm going to take my aperture, and then I'm going to take my stencil again, find a little spot that works here. And it's tricky, right? Because I've got that darn center there that's going to block my snowflakes. I'm going to go in. Okay. And then I'm just going to turn this, and I'm going to add another little snowflake down here. Like so. So it doesn't have to be perfect. And then when I pick that up, I've got my two ornaments rather. The one in the foreground, the one in the background, and then I happen to have these ornament toppers, and these Donna I will put in the comments. There's some links to ornament dies that have the ornament toppers in the store. These are just something that I had in my stash, but there are a bunch of sets in the store. So I'm not going to take the time to glue these down, but that you get the idea. Actually, maybe I'll just quickly glue this one for you so you can see. At least get part of it down here. And again, I love the look of this. I love the simplicity of it. And then if you just, put it on a colored card base. Whoops. Forgot what I was doing there. This guy needs a bit more glue at the top. There. Sorry, I had to get a little closer to that. So you just stick that down, and then grab a pair of scissors, snip, snip. I got a bit of ink there. And then grab a sentiment and put it on your card base, which doesn't have to be red. You could use gold, and there you have it. Like just a really simple card. You can get stencils that have the aperture, but you can easily just cut one yourself and end up with a really pretty card. So that is that. Idea 2 or 3, I guess. So I'm just going to stick this stencil back. I'm going to have to do a big tidy up. Okay. Now, how are we doing for time here? Okay. I think I have time to show you one more. Darn it. I had some other Okay. Well, I might just have to show you the samples, but I'll close my glue. Okay, so this one, so similar idea. I'm on a I'm on a roll here. So still working with the aperture, but what I did was I took this Spellbinders set that is Essential Arches, which is a really versatile set. I'm finding I find that I'm using it for a lot of different things in my card making these days, and as I don't know, to me it's especially nice for some reason for my Christmas cards. But so that I used that, and then what I did was I cut an arch using this one, this size here, which gives you a size that fits on an A2 card base if you want to layer it. You can use a bigger one if you want to sort of have it be your card. Just going to check the comments here. Yes, Isink. For sure, Isabel. Okay, so same idea as the last card. What I did was I used the apertures, except I used them on top of a panel that I cut the arch like that. And then what I did was I put it in an embossing folder. It was a snowflake embossing folder. It's a Spellbinder snowflake embossing folder, which is now sold out, unfortunately. However, there are tons of snowflake embossing folders, and the store does have other ones. And Donna, I think, has some links for those as well. If she can't find the link, all you have to do is search for snowflake embossing folder, and you will find some on the site. So I took the snowflake embossing folder. Also, it doesn't have to be snowflakes. It could be stars. It could be, whatever you like. And then what I did was I took again, back with the aperture. Now this one is smaller. So this is a 2-inch aperture. And so I situate my aperture, and I'm just going to grab blue again because I have it handy and we're kind of running short on time. And so again, in I go with my ink blender. And this is where I have to say the small, if I can find them in the mess that's on my desk right now, the smaller brushes really come in handy when you're doing stuff like this. Here's one here. So I'll just ink that up. It just makes it a little easier to get in there. And normally I would I'd be a little more gentler with this, but I just want to kind of show you the effect of it. So you see how what's kind of fun about this is that the ink, the embossing folder, the raised parts of the embossing folder are picking up on the ink. And so again, I have masks. So you can mask this off. Again, I use the Gina K Masking Magic. I've also done this with just paper masks where I just held the paper down and ink blended the next ornament. So you can do that. Yeah, see, the problem with the Masking Magic is that it doesn't stick 100% to the embossed areas. So that's why sometimes the paper mask works a little better. In fact, I have one here and I'm going to grab that just because it sits a little better on the raised areas. Okay. And then if we put our third one, gets tricky when you start adding, because I'm masking off all these ornaments. But it is such a cool effect. I love the effect of this. And these inks just go down so beautiful and so smooth. And so then what you can do is, once you've got this done, then usually what I do is I go in and I just add a bit more blending to kind of smooth out the edges so you can still see the definition of your individual ornaments, but you've got a little bit more definition. And I'll even sometimes go back in, just put my aperture back on and go back in and just add a bit more. And sometimes what I like to do, if I can find it, is use one of these really fine edged. This happens to be a Nouveau blending brush. And then just really kind of allows you to really kind of zoom in on that and give a bit more definition. Voila. Okay. So then what I did was I'm trying to think what I used here. I think these are, I think these might be, gosh, you guys, I should have written that down. I think they might be honeybee stamps, gems that I used to add a bit of sparkle. And then you can see that I added the toppers. But in this case, what I did was I used a bit of gold thread for the string instead of the actual paper. That I'm losing my words here. I cut this part off and just put a string through there, and I kind of liked that effect. And so then I put it on a navy matte layer. I added the gold and then just a white card base. And this greeting is a Hero Arts greeting, and it's their holiday sentiments, and it's a stamp and die set. So that is a really nice set because you get tons of sentiments in that set. Okay, let me check the time. Okay, 5 minutes. I have 5 minutes to show you one last thing. And I think it might be my favorite too. I'm sad that I don't have more time. Okay, so I haven't given up on the apertures yet. Isn't it a waffle flower? Which one? Isn't it a waffle flower something? I'm not sure.
Too late.
Oh, Donna wants the mat. The mat that I'm working on. Oh yes, the mat is a waffle flower stencil mat. Yeah, sorry guys. Sorry, I missed that. Okay, so one last thing. I'm going to squeeze this in. You get the idea of the aperture, so I don't have to go through that again. But I just wanted to show you sort of one last idea. And that is, do you guys remember this circle set? How I went wild stamping circles? So I haven't stopped using this set. I still love it, and it's a lot of fun. So you get all these different sizes. So I used this size, and what I did is, instead of using the aperture, I stamped my circles. And then what I did was, so I stamped them in purple. I masked off each circle just as you saw me do with the other ones. But then I still used the aperture in the sense that I went back in with my blending brush and I added some more detail, because when you stamp these, and maybe I'll just quickly show you that just so you can see an example. Just grabbing some paper here. So when you stamp these circles down, sure I got it going the right way. And I'll just grab some purple so you can see it in the same color. Okay. So when you stamp them down, And I won't worry too much about where I'm putting it, just for demonstration purposes. It gives you a nice circle, but what it doesn't give you is a smooth kind of blended image. So that's where I went in with my aperture, and I took my blending brush and I just went in and I smoothed it out with my blending brush. So it just kind of gives it a bit more of an even finish. So you're saying, well, why would you bother with the stamp? And I guess that's a good question, except that what I would say is that if you wanted to do smaller, if you wanted access to the different sizes, you would have that in the stamp. And also, it gives you some of the areas are a little less regular, which kind of reminds me of some of the kind of old-fashioned ornaments where they're not absolutely perfect. So that's what I did to that stage. And then what I did was I went in with this Ciao Bella stamp, or stencil rather. And again, it doesn't have to be this stencil. It's this, I chose this stencil because it is, it has this kind of pretty ornate pattern, and also because it has these circular elements in it. And what I did was I took my, I took a Studio Light foam blending tool, and I really like these for adding embossing ink. And where is my, oh, here it is. And what I did was I took my stencil and placed it on my my ornament. And what I like to do is I like to make use of that aperture. So again, it kind of protects my, I know that I'm going to stay inside my circle. And so I got my ink and just went in like so with my embossing ink. And then, and I'll just show you the one and then you'll get the idea. Took some gold embossing powder. And one thing that I didn't do, well, I'm going to get away with it, but normally what I would do is I would use a anti-static powder before I apply my my embossing ink, so that it doesn't go where I don't want it to. But I guess I did ink up the whole thing. No, I didn't ink up the whole thing. Sorry. Yes, apply the anti-static emboss powder, and so it doesn't stick to everything, and then it'll just stick to the areas where you added the ink. Okay, let me just hit this with my heat tool quickly. And there you go. So this one, you can see I went in and I did different areas of the stencil so that I had some variation. And then once again, what I would do is I would take my little ornament toppers, and what I would do is I would attach them so that they stop at the edge of the decorative panel. Now, I'm using this decorative panel because I had it in my stash, but you can easily do this with a plain panel, and then add it to a matte layer. And there you have it. I won't stick them down because we're out of time, but you get the idea. And then you add your sentiment like so, or at the bottom, as you wish. And that's your card. What I think is really pretty too is to, when you emboss with the gold, is to offset it with the gold underneath, so it kind of highlights your gold on your embossing. Okay, so guys, we're out of time. I've gone 5 minutes over, and so I don't know why you didn't go live before. Oh, Isabel, you're so cute. Okay, you guys, thanks so much for showing up for me. I really appreciate it. And I hope that I gave you some ideas of hopefully some simple Christmas cards, because at this stage of the game, we're all, I think, feeling a little stressed out and probably have cards to make and feeling like we don't have enough time. So I hope this gives you some ideas that you can use. And yeah, have a great evening, and thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.